Hey everyone, I'm Leah, and about a year ago I was assigned a project in school that said I should job shadow someone, so I chose to job shadow someone at the Midnight Mission down in downtown Los Angeles. Now, I live in the suburbs, so TV, movies, and anything I've ever been told me I should be terrified of going to downtown Los Angeles. I mean, I thought I was going to see hobos, druggies. I thought I knew exactly the type of people I was going to find at the Midnight Mission. When I got there, it was a whole lot different than I thought it was going to be.
But I was pretty, a normal kid. I'm not the kid from the ghetto. When I grew up, we had a house, backyard, dog. So I was a gifted student. I graduated from high school at 16 with a dual scholarship academically and athletically. I was groomed for success. But drugs just didn't go away with all that.
So the thing that shocked me is the difference between what I thought I was going to see at the Midnight Mission and what I actually saw there. Because some of these people were crazy successful. I mean, they've achieved amazing things in their lives. But, drugs are so powerful that they could take the most successful person in the world and just bring them right down to the streets. How did you start on your path toward addiction?
I think like most people do, curiosity about somebody's party and what's that about, and curiosity turned into experimentation. Smoking weed was my first drug, and then experimentation turned into use and abuse, reliance, dependence, and then addiction.
I smoked a joint when I was 17. What happened? I wanted to fit in.
What started out as a good time quickly turned on me. I have to be honest, there was a brief season early in my life where smoking and drinking really didn't have a lot of negative consequences. What began as a party and a good time quickly took on a life of its own, and I lost the power of choice at some point. My life had become a cartoon, and I didn't see any way out.
I had money. I had a condo, brand new car, stock portfolio, 24, and that's what I did. And it took 2 years, 2.5 years. I was done.
So I go to high school, and we've all heard it. The phrases like, "Oh, I'll just try drugs once," or "Pot and cocaine, they're not as bad as other drugs I could be doing," or "Pot is only a gateway drug if you want it to be." Well, I decided I wanted to ask someone who's actually been there and see what they think about it. When you first used drugs at age 13, did you ever believe it was going to lead to a situation where you were no longer in control of your life?
No, certainly not. It started out as a party. It started out as a good time. I'm just going to smoke a little dope and get stupid, which stayed, unfortunately. That mindset stayed with me. But I didn't know that it was progressive. I didn't know that you may have heard that marijuana is a gateway drug, and what that means is it opens up the floodgates to other substance. It did for me. And eventually weed didn't get me where it is I thought I wanted to go. So then came the cocaine and cannabinol and acid and whatever else was available. Alcohol certainly was in the picture. And it reached a point where the addiction and the substance had control of my life. I found myself alone with no accountability. Thought I could do whatever I wanted, that I was only hurting me, but that's not the case. You hurt everybody around you if you're involved in addiction. Drugs and the lifestyle and the parties and the chaos and the madness. You jeopardize the safety of every person you come into contact with. And I didn't know it at the time, but the hearts were breaking of those that cared about me as they watched me self-destruct.
So after spending some time at the mission and starting to figure it all out, I realized the person I really wanted to ask was someone who worked there. Someone who was an expert and dealt with this every day. So I did. What's the thing that surprised you most about the people down here at Skid Row?
One of the things that blew me away, I was completely surprised, is that I've had several students who are college graduates. I went to USC, I'm a Trojan myself, and I had one particular student who was a successful lawyer, graduated from USC, and drugs and alcohol just brought him down. It could happen to anybody. Drugs and alcohol do not discriminate. You can be the smartest person on this planet, and it'll get you. It will, and I've seen it.
If you were sitting in front of about 50 teenagers who were using recreational drugs, after seeing what drug addiction can do to the men here, what would you tell them?
The first thing I would tell them is that drugs don't discriminate anybody. It could happen to all of those 50 students in the audience. It could happen to all of them. It doesn't matter how smart you are, it doesn't matter how much money you have, it could happen to you. And if you think you're just taking one small puff or one drink here and there, it's not just one small puff. It's not just one drink. It becomes a mental disorder. And if you don't think it can happen to you, come with me to 6 and San Pedro. Okay? I have pictures of gentlemen that thought the exact same thing that you did. And guess what? No, they're not poor, they don't have lack education. No, they're successful, they have money, they have Bentleys, they have it all. And it happened to them. So don't ever think that you're above that drink or that you're above that puff of that joint. Don't ever do that. And if you do, come to 6 in San Pedro. Just come for an hour. Come and just see what the consequences are of that attitude that you guys have.
You've seen many of your students deal with addictions. What would you say about the difficulty of getting out of an addiction?
You know, for the majority of my students, making it from 1 hour to the next is difficult. Making it from one day to the next is difficult. Making it from 1 week to the next is difficult. I personally experienced an amazing student. He relapsed about twice, and each time he came back and he went through the program. And finally he passed his year. He got a job. He got his own place. Fine, I would see him every day. In fact, I think he even worked for the mission. He worked for here. One day, he's found dead in his apartment. And it was too hard for him. And it was an overdose. So how difficult is it for these guys? It's extremely difficult. And from what I've been told, the difficulty subsides, but it never goes away.
The two things I really learned from spending time at the Midnight Mission is that, first of all, drugs are way above me and they're probably above you too. And second of all, every thought that high schoolers have about drugs is wrong. But hey, you don't even have to listen to me, because let's listen to the people that have actually walked this road and have taken drugs, because they know what they're talking about, not us.
You know, I want to say to not only you, but to anybody who would view this, is don't go down that path. You know, don't get started. And if you do, realize that there is help available, there is hope, that however you're feeling in this moment is not forever, that change is possible.
You know, I'm not one of those just say no guys, but you got to be aware of what you're dealing with. Don't get lost in it, because you'll cross the line before you know it. Before you know it, you're on the other side.